Hello my dear students. In the last class I explained about the different types of body like rigid body and deformable body, and also the different types of loads, right? Today we will study about the different types of materials like homogeneous materials, isotropic materials, elastic materials, plastic materials, and rigid materials. Okay, we will study one by one. The first one is homogeneous materials. What is this homogeneous materials? A homogeneous material is a material that consists of a uniform composition throughout. Okay, it is the material here. The composition is same throughout the material. That is called homogeneous material. It is a material that is characterized by its inability to be separated mechanically into different materials. So this is the other property of that, means its inability to be separated mechanically into different materials. And also a characteristic of homogeneous material is that it is made up of only one compound or element. It is made up of only one type of material. Only one type of element. There are several types of common homogeneous materials, which include some types of ceramics, metals, plastics, alloys, paper, boards, resins, or coatings. These are some of the examples for homogeneous materials. Mainly, it is, as the name itself it indicates, it is made up of uniform, it has the uniform composition throughout, and is made up of only one type of element or compound. Okay, so we will see next what is this isotropic materials. Okay. An isotropic material is one which looks the same in every direction. That is called as isotropic material. Means it looks same in all the directions. In other words, what you can say is the none of the properties depends the orientation. It is perfectly rotationally symmetric. That is also called as isotropic materials. And one more thing, have to note that in order to be isotropic, the material must be homogeneous on the length scale of interest. That means the same at every point in the material. This point you have to note down all this. To be isotropic, the material must be homogeneous. Okay. Then for example, the rubber is isotropic material. Okay, you take a rubber ball and it will feel the same and bounce the same however you rotate it. That is a very good example for isotropic material. Okay, next is elastic materials. This is the main topic. We are dealing with elastic materials only. Okay, the property of certain materials of returning back to their original position after removing the external force is known as elasticity. All of you know about this. So when the forces are removed, the object will return to its initial shape and size if the material is elastic. Means when the load is applied, it undergoes some changes in its shape. But once the loads or forces are removed, the object will return to its initial shape and size. So such a material is called as elastic materials. In other words, the deformation disappears completely after the removal of external forces. That is also called as elastic materials. Okay. There is, it can classify also if it is, perfectly elastic, partially elastic. If it is not elastic, then it has to be called by some other name, that is plastic. Okay, so if a body is said to be perfectly elastic, if it returns back completely its original shape and size after the removal of external forces. Okay, when you say it is perfectly elastic, it has to regain its shape or size after the removal of external forces. For example, steel cables, rubber bands. You just imagine, springs are the examples of the elastic materials. Okay. If the body does not return back completely its original shape and size after the removal of the external force, then it is said to be partially elastic. Okay, so I already told you can classify it as perfectly elastic, partially elastic, like that. Okay, if it is perfectly elastic means it has to regain its original shape and size completely. Like after the removal of the external forces. But if the body does not return back completely its original shape and size after the removal of the external force, then it is said to be partially elastic. This is about the elastic materials. Okay, property of a body by virtue of which it undergoes deformation when subjected to an external force and regains its original configuration upon the removal of deforming external force is called as elasticity. Okay, the property of the material, like it is the property by virtue of which it undergoes deformation when subjected to an external force and regains its original configuration upon the removal of deforming external force is called as elasticity. And also the stress corresponding to the limiting value of the external force up to and within which the deformation disappears completely upon the removal of the external force is called as elastic limit. Means there is some limit up to which the material can resist that force. After that it cannot resist that force, so the deformation will remain sometimes. Okay, so what we call this elastic limit means the stress corresponding to the limiting value of the external force up to and within which the deformation disappears completely upon the removal of the external force. That limit is called as elastic limit. Okay, if the external force is so large that the stress exceeds the elastic limit, the material loses to some extent its property of elasticity. If now the force is removed, the material will not return to its original shape and size, and there will be a residual deformation in the material. Such type of material is called as plastic material. Means there is some limit. That limit is called as elastic limit, up to which the material when the load is applied, it undergoes deformation, but when the load is removed, it regains its shape. But if it exceeds that elastic limit, it undergoes deformation, so it will not return to its original shape and size. So such a material is called as plastic material. Okay, and one more type is that rigid material. That is, it is a material that which does not undergo any deformation under the action of external force applied to it, whatever may be the magnitude of the force. This is rigid, it's very strong. Such type of material is called as rigid materials. Okay, this is about the different types of materials that you are going to use in this course. Okay, homogeneous material, isotropic materials, elastic materials, plastic materials we don't use, and rigid material also we are studying with the deformation. Okay, so next class I will tell you what is stress and strain. Okay, thank you.